Hello and welcome again to River Valley Farm. Today we are back to our 3176 that had the bad injector the other day. Got her parts in, all that good stuff. That all looks to be happy. So first things first, before we get too far gone, we have to we're going to use a little oil sample pump here and a piece of sample tubing to suck the oil and fuel that's in this cylinder out. Pretty simple to do. Just stick the tube down in there. Actually, let me show you this so that it'll make more sense to you. Maybe. Anyway, if I can get the injector out of the bag. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, this tubing is just slightly smaller than the tip on that injector. This is a reman injector, so it comes with all new O-rings and everything already on it. Put the cover back on it so nothing happens to that tip until we're ready to put it in. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to stuff this tubing down inside of the injector hole there and pump it out. Maybe. So as you can see, we're pulling some stuff out of there. I'm just going to keep pumping until it comes dry, basically. Alright, so this is, I don't even know how big a bottle that is. It's not very big. I mean, there's my hand next to it. That don't look like very much fluid that was in the cylinder, but that's enough to screw it up. That'll bend a rod or bend a valve or something like that when you go to start it. Don't want to do that. Next step is to drop the injector in. We got our injector hold down. I like to use assembly lube on the O-rings and stuff, but I don't have any, so we're just going to use a little bit of leftover engine oil I have here. Don't ever throw partial quarts of oil away, because you never know when you might need them. And that.
Dad, do you want me to shut this?
No, it's fine where it is, bud.
You want me to shut this door?
I'm going to put a little bit of oil on the bolt too, just because it'll make it go in easier. Anyway, let me drop this in there and tighten it down, and we'll go to the next step. Okay, so now we've got our new injector installed. It's this thing right here. Our valve bridges are there. I am going to go with they feel good. I don't get any wobble, like they're not hitting evenly on the valve stems themselves, so we're going to say those are good. Next step is to put our rocker arms and push rods back in for this cylinder, and then in order to do that I got to go look up another torque spec. And yeah, I'm not going to quote you torque specs on these things, because this 3176 is a 7GL or LG 7GL prefix. There's only 4 different prefixes on these things for truck engines, and I'm pretty sure they all torque differently, so I'm not going to quote that. Your intake and exhaust valve flash settings Intake is,
What about the old injector, Dad?
well, it's already gone. We don't need to worry about that.
And what's that big yellowish thing?
Well, that's the new injector. Okay? Anyway, your intake and exhaust valve lash settings is, the intake is 15 thousandths of an inch, exhaust is 25 thousandths of an inch. That is pretty standard across all the 3176s that I'm aware of. Your Jake brake setting on this one, anyway, again, that could be different, but this one is 50 thousandths of an inch, which is a really large gap, but anyway, that's beside the point. That's what the book says, so that's what we're going to do. So yeah, let me go get that torque spec and I'll get back to you. Alright, so we have our rocker arms back on. The book I was able to access doesn't actually quote a torque on these, which I found interesting, but anyway, it just says tighten to standard torque. These are metric, like an M12 metric. This one's a 19, this one's an 18, and vice versa over here. Anyway, so I just did the old good and tight torque on them. We'll call that good. Next step, we got to put the engine brake housing back on and torque it down, or tighten it down anyway. 3 bolts. Then we're going to pull the other 2 valve covers off so we can put this thing in time and check all the valve lash and what have you. So yay, fun stuff for us. Alright, so where'd we leave off? I was putting this Jake housing on, everything's happy with that. And then we were going to remove all the valve covers and adjust the overhead. Of course, the engine is not sitting on number 1 or number 6 top center, so we're going to have to make some adjustments to that. I don't know how well we'll be able to see down in here, but anyway, try something here. This hole right here, if you can see my finger, that's your timing pin hole for the flywheel. It locks the flywheel at number 1 top center compression stroke and number 6 top center compression stroke. Where, you know, you turn it all the way around and then that's where it's at. This other plug down here, I don't know if you can see that or not. You guys might be able to know. Another plug below the hole down there. That is where you're supposed to put the turning tool in the engine, into the flywheel ring gear, and be able to turn the engine over. I'm not so fortunate as to have one of those at the moment, so we're going to have to do it the harder way and grab a tensioner bolt and turn it. The timing pin, I don't even have a 3/8 bolt at the moment, but that's all you really need, so I'm going to use a 3/8 drill bit. Just turn it over slowly, hold some pressure on that. When it falls in, you're good, basically. So yeah, anyway, that's where we're at now. We got to get the engine in time so we can check our valve lash and our injectors, make sure everything's adjusted right. I'm not going to worry too much about the Jakes right now because they're actually not working, so, and the guy doesn't care, so yeah, back to it. Okay, so I got the engine pinned and I adjusted the valves on both the intake and exhaust valves on number 1, the intake on number 2, exhaust on 3, intake on 4, and exhaust on 5. Now I got to turn the engine over to do the rest of the valves, but first we need to do the injectors. Now it says I should do the injectors on 3, 5, and 6. Excuse me. Need to set the injectors on cylinder 3, 5, and 6 right now. So that involves getting to, oh, this is fun, trying to get down in here. Anyway, involves trying to get into that nut right there so we can get that loosened up so we can reset the injector. Got to do that on this cylinder, that cylinder, and that one over there. I would set up a tripod and do this, but as I'm continually told, my audio just sucks when I use my actual camera, so I'm looking into fixing that problem. Anyway, for now, we're just gonna have to deal with my phone. So, let me run through the process of setting those injectors with you real quick on paper. Okay then, so it shows it here without the Jake on it, which makes life lots easier, but anyway, doesn't really matter. So put the number 1 piston at top center compression stroke, did that. Turn the unit injector adjusting screw clockwise until contact is made with the unit injector. Turn the adjusting screw an additional 180 degrees or half a turn, and hold the adjusting screw in this position and tighten the lock nut. So yeah, that's pretty straightforward and simple. Anyway, I got to do this. So yeah, adjust 3, 5, and 6, and then turn the engine 360 degrees and do 1, 2, and 4. And once I turn the engine that far, I'll be able to adjust the valves on, the other valves, intake and exhaust on 6, and then the opposite ones of what I've already done on the rest of them. It's getting kind of late for explanations at this point in time, so let me get this done. Okay, so they show you that picture without the Jakes on for a really good reason. You cannot access these with the Jakes on. You can't get a wrench up underneath the Jake to break that nut loose. You can't get a socket down through the top to get that nut loose. So you just got to take the Jakes off so you can adjust the injectors. I was really not hopeful of that being the case, but hey, that's what I get for being hopeful. Okay, so everything's adjusted now. The valves were all just probably not even 1,000 tighter than where I like them to be. They were more or less just too tight for the way I like the feeler gauge to feel, you know, when you slide them in there. So adjusted all them up. The only injector that actually needed to be adjusted was the new one. And with the new injector in it, it was actually too loose, so we had to turn it in quite a bit. We reset everything though, so now we got to put the Jakes back on, and valve covers back on, fire it up, see what happens. Worst it'll do is fly apart. Okay, so here we go. We're about ready to start this thing up. We've got it all put back together again. I need to get that off of there. Well, hang on a minute. We're gonna
Clean the engine off?
no, we're not gonna clean it off. We're gonna try and prime the fuel system first, if I can get a hold of that thing and get it loose. So I think first off, we're gonna try it and see what it does. See how quick it'll prime itself. Hang on, let me help you. Let me help you. Let me help you.
That wasn't good.
No. See here. Okay, so yeah, now we are going to have to get that thing to unscrew and pump up the fuel by hand. Wish me luck. Okay, about 400 pumps. Let's see what it does now. Well, it started anyway. Sounds a little bit smoother than what it did. Actually, it sounds a whole lot smoother than what it did. Yeah, now it sounds like a caterpillar instead of just a clattering mess. Okay. Now it sounds like a caterpillar instead of just a clattering mess. That's good. Yes, sir. That's the way it's supposed to sound. Okay, good. All right, now let's let it sit and warm up a little bit. And hopefully we don't have anything start puking fuel out of the dipstick or anything like that. And should be good to call a guy and let him know it's ready to go. Okay then, so after, well, that did take me about, well, those LED lights are bright. Anyway, after about 4 hours of working on it, after I got home from work, it runs again. We're good, everything's happy. It definitely isn't missing anymore, that's a definite plus. Guy that owns it should be happy with it. Trying to find some way where I don't pick up those lights, but I can move around. I don't think it's gonna work. Anyway, I think we're good for this one, guys. Thanks for watching. Please comment, rate, and subscribe for more, and we'll get back to you with probably going to the D7 next. Thanks again.